Well, hello everyone. It is that Weems guy here for another episode. We're back after the holidays. We're recording this on January the 4th, and January the 4th is kind of a momentous day for me. It is the anniversary of my career as a peace officer beginning. So year 28 starts today. Um, uh, my father spent 27 years in the military, so I have now outlasted him. That was not a not a goal when I started, but I thought about that this morning. As most of y'all in the audience know, I lost him about 2 years ago, and I was thinking about that today. You know, he made it 27. I'm starting 28, and miss you, pops. But there you go. So a couple of years ago, I think it was 2023, saw this video pop up in the Range Master instructor group, and it was some guy named Jim Shanahan. And it's like out of the blue. I'm like, who's this guy? Not as like a who does he think he is, but who's this? I don't know who he is. And I saw a couple of other videos pop up. And then the Rangemaster reunion that year was at Ed Monk's place in Whitehall, Arkansas. And I was down on one end of the line and we shot some sort of drill for a coin or something like that. And Tom's like, the winner is Jim Shanahan. I was like, oh, that's the guy
Well,
from the videos. And I don't think we actually even really met or interacted that day at all.
yeah, I don't know. Probably
And
not.
and then, oh gosh, I heard you on another podcast, and I can't remember who it was, where you went into your bio and everything. Oh, this guy's been around for forever. Just all of a sudden, he got a YouTube channel.
Mhm.
So, well, let's start out by you telling everybody who you are.
So I'm Jim Shanahan. I own Advanced Performance Shooting.
Mhm.
Um, I was in the Army, retired from the Army, just over 21 years. Stayed retired for 3 full days, went right back to work for the government
Mhm.
as an instructor, um, both in Afghanistan and in the States. Been married to the same great gal for going on 38 years now.
There you
Got
go.
2 kids, 4 dogs, 2 cats, 17 chickens that occupy a ton of my time. And I started the company just over halfway through my Army career, planning a future. I figured, if I get a good start on this, figure out how to run a business. Yeah, that didn't really happen, but I stayed I stayed very quiet. The internet had just been invented back then, but the things that I saw from there weren't even influencers then, but what I saw from the training community, I didn't want to be. I didn't want to, hey, look at me. I was really concerned that the people that I wanted to train would get scared off from that. I thought they would be intimidated.
Mhm.
I didn't. I've not said much online about being a USPSA Grandmaster or IDPA Master until this last year. Even talking with Bill Anderson, he said, "Man, I don't think you capitalize on that." I'm like, and I don't want it to intimidate somebody and
Mhm.
not come to training.
Right.
But the people that I really want to train don't know what that is. They don't know
Mhm.
who they are.
Yeah.
You and I could talk about Tom Gibbons all day long,
Right.
and you mention that to somebody else, and they're like, "Who? Oh, the
Yeah.
range master dude. Oh, he worked what? Huh?" And
Yeah.
I was just mistaken.
Right.
So when I decided it was time, a whole bunch of people, not just Lee Weems, were like,
Mhm.
"Man, who's this dude? Where'd this guy come from? Who?
Yeah.
Who's what? What? Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of me in a nutshell."
There you go. And your primary job in the Army for most of the time was actually instructing, correct?
About the last half, I was a drill sergeant in from 1994, I guess, till 1997. So at the halfway point of my career, and then 3 more years. And I think really that's what built the fever for wanting to teach. All the good jobs I had in the Army, that was probably the most rewarding and one of my
Yeah.
favorite. It was tough,
Yeah.
but that's kind of where it got started.
Yeah. Of course, I don't know how flexible it is teaching in the Army. I've got a considerable amount of experience teaching in an institutional setting, and sometimes there is flexibility, and sometimes there is not.
Yeah,
Uh,
flexible is not a word in the military setting. Yeah,
uh,
no.
um, but for me, at least, it has become a great laboratory to
Hmm.
experiment with certain things, and it is so much different. I don't think people that are uh, on the performance side of shooting or whatever, that if your classes are full of B class USPSA shooters that are hoping to get to master or grandmaster, that
Hmm.
ain't the same as a basic recruit class or somebody that just went to the gun store and bought a gun. It's like, hey, could you show me how to load this thing and
Right.
unload it? Getting to work a lot with that end of the spectrum. And then on the private sector side, getting to work with a higher level of student.
Hmm.
Yeah, it offers a lot of different perspective. At least
Sure.
it's, have you seen that same thing?
Well, yes. And
Uh,
a lot of times, I, it's very difficult to categorize really, truly where training is.
yeah.
Training really is either institutional or
Mhm.
private sector.
Yeah.
There really isn't anything else. It's either
Right.
military or civilian, or
Hmm.
military or law enforcement. And
Hmm.
Tom points out that there's not a lot of people with experience in all three of those arenas,
Right.
but they're all institutionalized.
Hmm.
It doesn't matter whose private sector training you go to, there's still that institutionalization.
Right.
And sometimes there, sometimes it would even be the fanboy side of it. They're like, oh, I'm not going to listen to anything else because it doesn't come from my institution or the institution I believe in. And
Right.
I think part of what motivated me to really start not pushing, because I'm not a real pushy guy. I just put the
Hmm.
information out, and if you like it, you like it. If you don't, I might not know about it.
Right.
Uh, the performance in my company name, Advanced went up there because we still use the yellow pages. And I wanted to appear in a yellow page search as early as I could.
Yeah.
But the performance side was really, remember the days when they talked about competition will get you killed?
Hmm.
And I hated that. I'm like, no, there's nothing. This is so the performance was the on demand. Can you
Hmm.
step to the line and just execute? It
Hmm.
wasn't what the performance side in some circles has turned into now, where
Right.
in my opinion, lots of it is, oh, let's go as fast as we can and then see what happened.
Hmm.
And I don't want to see that. I want to go as fast as I can and get the hits that I need to get
Right.
inside of that.
Right.
So yeah, I think and I'm blessed and lucky that I get to work with the university. I run their firearms program
Hmm.
for that. Um, and in that academy setting, I've got enough flexibility that I can teach my quantified skills information inside
Hmm.
of the Missouri Post approved lesson
Right.
plan.
Hmm.
So definitely having the private sector perspective as well as
Right.
the institutional background lets me really look at, okay, what do I have to teach? Doesn't
Hmm.
necessarily tell me how I
Right.
have to teach it.
Right.
So that's hugely beneficial, I think.
Right. I do think one thing that where we benefit on the institutionalized side is that institutions love schools.
Mm-hmm.
Go to this instructor school, go to that instructor school, or whatever. And there is a big push of formalized lesson plans and the like.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas on the private sector side, it's, well, I've got the certificate, so I'm going to go do what I want to.
Right.
Uh, and not everybody's that way, but I see that a lot. You mentioned Tom Givens. I've heard Tom will say something, hey, can I see the lesson plan for this class? And get kind of blank stares or
Yep.
whatever. And it's funny. I know Tom uses a lesson plan because I knocked over his coffee cup on it
R-
one time, and 3 years later he was still with that same clipboard with that same coffee stained sheet of paper.
Right.
Things, Tom, I think it's time to print a new. I'm about to update this class. It'll be fun.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
As I started looking at and
yeah,
taking other classes, and like, just like
yeah,
anybody that's going to classes,
hmm
we're looking for very specific things.
yeah,
And I would never expect somebody to share a lesson plan with me.
Right.
That insider stuff. But I was
Hmm.
surprised at the number of people that are teaching routinely that are
Hmm.
not working off a lesson plan. I'm like,
Right.
how do you do that? Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
They're like, man, you can sure manage time. I'm like, no, I can follow a lesson plan. And
Yeah. Yeah.
um, that's what drill sergeant was.
Hmm.
There were I don't remember how many lesson plans, but
Hmm.
every day there was a lesson plan, and then
Hmm.
at this time you say this, at this time you say that. This is how you do this, and that wasn't just in my company or my battalion. That's
Right.
across all of Fort Leonard Wood, all of Fort
Hmm.
Jackson, all of Fort Benning.
Right.
It, that day in training, that same
Hmm.
thing's getting taught to everybody that's in training that day.
Right. Well, if you want to deep dive into educational design and the like, the Department of Defense in the 1950s spent a lot of effort and resources into developing a formalized training system. And
Mm-hmm.
out of that came, Bloom's taxonomy, which is
Mm-hmm.
if you crack open any book on education, you're probably going to find some sort of allusion to Bloom's taxonomy. And the
Right.
whole in one of your books, you talked about the uh, task condition standard. I may be saying that wrong. That comes right out of the Bloom's taxonomy.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and they shifted from task to
Right.
action.
Right.
And like I I, as I look at the way I'm writing now,
Mm-hmm.
and some people are like, "Whoa, holy cow!" I'm not sure. That's what I learned to do, and that type of writing for those programs, again, starting in the 40s and 50s, was there wasn't a tremendous amount of teaching people how to teach. There wasn't time to teach them, all the you deliver information much better today than you delivered it when you first got started. That's
Mm-hmm.
rehearsals.
Yeah.
There isn't the time to develop that. So there had to be hey, this is what we're going to do. And then
Mm-hmm.
you just get better doing it over time.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. You use the phrase deliberate responder in both the titles
Mm-hmm.
to your books and going on. Could you explain what you mean by being a deliberate responder?
So, yes. And of course, it's long winded coming from me always. Um, I don't know, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
when I think we really started seeing the push of you are your own first responder. And to me, that took away from um, the guys in law enforcement, the guys and gals that are doing law enforcement or EMT or that are truly first responders. I even think of a lot of the military jobs as first responders. And I kind of started searching for a way to separate that. And then immediate responder got thrown around for a little while. And I thought, ooh, that's kind of cool. And then one of my buddies threw out the word deliberate because it's, it's I don't believe that it's true that we are all our own first responders. We should be.
Yeah.
Um, it, Now we're seeing the phrase you have to be able to self rescue,
Mm-hmm.
and we know the numbers of gun owners that are actually training, the ones that go anything at all beyond um, a required concealed carry class or something, and that number is just stupid small. So I wanted to put a tighter edge to it and started working with that deliberate responder piece. Gave it a definition and everything, and farmed that definition out to make sure that spelling and grammar was enough squared away that it made sense. But we said that a deliberate responder, when evil strikes, is prepared to respond mentally and physically without emotion, undue consideration, or reflection with an appropriate amount of force. And some people are like, oh, that's a big run on sentence and you should do. And I'm like, no, it's one big thought.
Yeah.
It's, and that's the thought that I want. And I open our concealed carry classes with that. But it really defines, in my mind, what we would truly expect of ourselves. And there has to be the training to develop somebody that's actually going to be an
Mhm.
effective first responder. And again, I wanted that delineation between the professional first responder and that private citizen or somebody who's not doing their job at the time.
Okay. All right. And this was something question I took from reading your books, and then someone in the show group also wanted to have you talk about it. You use the term surplus of skill,
Mhm.
and that one gets bandied around on the internet a lot. Oh, you need to have a surplus of skill. So what is it?
That's and when I saw that question pop up, oh, let's talk, I was like, oh, that that's to me, that's almost the what came first, the chicken or the egg kind of
Mm-hmm.
conversation.
Right.
We would talk about, and in a couple of different of the books, I talk about the question, what is good enough?
Mm-hmm.
And we can't define it. It's
Right.
not. Um, Technically, by design, surplus is more of something than I actually need.
Mm-hmm.
So if I needed a 2-second presentation from concealment, but I did it in 1.5 seconds, that's a half a second of surplus. But it doesn't get viewed like that in the training world. We know that, like, if you can't do a sub-second presentation from concealment, you're not even trained yet. We know that. All you got to do is ask the internet. Holy cow!
And
It,
none of those people have a true sub-second draw from concealment
None
either.
of them do. It doesn't exist. I was in a class earlier this year, and the guy teaching that class said it doesn't exist. And I was like, yes,
Yeah.
you're right. I can stand on the range, and I
Yeah.
can do sub-second presentations. And the
Mm-hmm.
more I do, the faster they get. And I'm like, oh, they're not Isaac Lockwood
Yeah.
fast, but
Right.
I'm coming. Yeah, they're not. But
Yeah.
that true sub-second doesn't exist.
Right.
And if somebody, if somebody can't, to me, your surplus is anything beyond what you absolutely know and can do on demand. So if you can on demand reload from in a slide lock reload in 2 seconds, and you can do it 5 times in a row, and you can get the hits that you want. The only way that's a true statement is sometimes you can do it faster. If you really work at it, you can do it quicker. So I think that surplus of skill kind of thing, that's the practice side. That's the okay, now I'm really going to work on this. And I recognize that that's a surplus. The football coach or the army boss, the probably any coach like role. Oh, I want 110%. Give me 110%. If you give me 110%, right at 110%, hearts explode. That's
Yeah.
when things fall apart. Your engines don't run at 110%. And that surplus skill is that extra that's not 100% repeatable. Um, but I think it's crucial that they know that.
Yeah.
That's, you've shot IDPA and USPSA stuff.
Shot IDPA. I've never shot USPSA.
Yeah, they'll and you the same it's the same people with
Yeah.
a slightly different goal. They're good shooters, people that you know are good shooters, that you have experience with them being. They get up there, the buzzer goes off, and the wheels fall off. Oh, they were trying to work inside of that surplus. They weren't trying to work in that space that they could control. So that's kind of where I think it sits.
Yeah.
And
Um,
I don't know that anybody could say, um, in the book I talk about, the little old lady that she got bad advice and got a revolver, and they gave her, hey, practice your with these loads and carry these loads. When that inch-and-a-half barrel barks and that fireball comes flying out of that 357 Magnum that she ain't never fired, and the
yeah.
bad guy runs away, she in fact had a surplus of skill. She had
Yeah.
more skill than she needed,
Yeah.
but we can't determine what that
Right.
is. from a real life perspective.
right. Um, so I guess kind of the next kind of outcropping of this line of thought is anchored skill versus like a one of skill or my best
Mm,
or my sometimes skill. I think
right.
that kind of goes along with the what you're talking about with the surplus.
Mm,
Because we see all the time these people that they go out there and on their seventh presentation from the holster, they get the sub second. Oh, I've got a sub second draw
mm,
or whatever. So what can you do every time on demand?
right.
Is that what you mean by anchored skill?
And yes, and I think for for me, the way I choose to view it
Mm-hmm.
uh, is is that application, whatever that is, 5 times in a row.
Yeah.
Five times in a row, and okay, cool. Now I can go work on something else. I can do
Mm-hmm.
something different. I think it's whatever that skill is, for it truly to be anchored, you have to revisit it. We know that recency is a big deal. So you come back, you know from over here, hey, this is what I can do 5 shots at 5 yards, and this is what I can do it in. And then, oh look, I still did it. Or with this jacket, it's a little bit different. Or with this shirt, it's
Mm-hmm.
a tiny bit different. Um,
Yeah.
but that anchored piece for me, from a mental side, is that's a comfort zone. That's a
Mm-hmm.
I know I can do that.
Right. Yeah, I know, and I'm going to make people mad when I get into this. Is the side of the training world and the shooting world that lives completely and totally in metrics. It's because they don't have practical experience.
Mm,
And so they can look at that timer and look at that target and do the hit factor or whatever and say, well, I'm this good. Well, you're that good in a closed environment
right.
when you know you're going to be doing it, etc. And it's okay to, and when we bring this up, I like to call it, technical versus application. And I live more on the application side. Folks that come from that line of thinking the app more than the application side, we've never said don't be good.
Right.
But when we say, you know what, I don't think I need to be chasing that sub-second draw. I think I'm pretty satisfied with where I'm at. I want to work on some other things. Or you're just saying that because you can't do it.
Right.
All right. Well, so then it kind of gets into we have to decide what the most important measures are.
Hmm.
Yeah, if I'm only going to accept that a M or GM level shooter in USPSA is good, well, I'm going to tell you from my point of view, that's who plays USPSA better. It's not necessarily who's the better shooter.
Right.
Have never shot USPSA. I have shot IDPA.
Mm,
Back when I was shooting it really regular, 2010 to 2014 ish whatsoever, I was expert level IDPA back then. There was a local master that ultimately I think he made distinguished master before he
mm,
left IDPA. Um, I couldn't get close to him in an IDPA match.
right.
Couldn't get close to him whatsoever. He showed up at a GSSF match, and I beat him by 20 seconds. Because GSSF is just stand there and shoot fast and accurately. There's no
Right.
athleticism involved in it.
Right.
You don't have to
There's
move in
no
position, out of position. Good. Yeah.
the sides of things that I think get
Yeah.
skewed, almost said
Mhm.
screwed, but it's the same example. The that they get skewed so bad in and even units that only train that don't have the application
Right.
side requirement because of the environment, if
Mhm.
nothing else. That it's one dimensional. It
Mhm.
doesn't become 2 and 3 dimensional until we
Right.
add force on force.
Right.
The living opponent, whether it's force on force, whether it's role play, they absolutely have a say in
Mhm.
things. One of the I had a conversation. We had a range day rehearsal for one of the products we're unveiling at Shot Show
Mhm.
this year, and um, that that guy, good dude, great product, um, doesn't have a training background, and he's hey, you want to see my tooler example? You want to see my tooler example? And
Mhm.
I try very hard. I know my face betrays me sometimes. I'm like, uh, stop.
Yeah.
First off, you probably can't spell it,
Right.
but you don't understand it for sure, and it almost blew his mind when I said, let's think about that for just a second. And his version of Tooler is a little bit different than I've even he saw it 2 seconds, 28 feet, and I'm like, what, where, what?
Mhm.
But I break it down in the book. On average,
Yeah.
from
Mhm.
Tooler's example, somebody could move 14 feet in 1 second.
Right.
Okay, cool. If both of us are moving together, we're gonna end up touching one another in how long? And people are like,
Yeah.
uh, I said, dude, you don't even understand what the information is for.
Right.
That's what it was for, and
Mhm.
and we've so misused it. Last year or maybe the year before, we saw the metric argument
Mhm.
from um, some of them were calling them jailbait splits, and
Right.
they're splits between shots that there's absolutely no decision making going on, and
Right.
it's not a decision if you decide I'm
Right.
going to shoot again or I'm not going to shoot again
Right.
at
Yeah.
that speed.
Mhm.
That's not a decision based on what the opponent, what the bad guy might be
Right.
doing. Does he need another one?
Right.
We know from both Hearn and Holshin's work that that is much closer to a half a second than most people would
Yeah.
had even thought from before.
Yep.
And it the if you and I don't know very many people that would go to a range master class or any other class like that
Mhm.
that aren't capable of at some distance, whatever that distance is,
Mhm.
unique for each of us maybe, splits from one shot to another in a quarter second. I mean, Tom works on a quarter second in his cadence exercises.
Mhm.
That's not undoable for most people
Right.
with a little bit of training,
Mhm.
but that's not thinking inside of
Right.
that.
Right.
And the thinking inside of it is the metric that's missing if it's not from
Mhm.
that three-dimensional setting.
Right. Well, the Force Science Institute, which was before it became the Force Science Institute, was the Force Science Research Center,
Mm-hmm.
was part of a university in Minnesota. And then when the professor, Dr. Bill Lewinsky, retired, he renamed it Force Science Institute and kept going with it. Their work determined that the average human reaction time to a known stimulus is a quarter of a
Mm-hmm.
second. But
Mm-hmm.
they go on to say reaction time plus movement equals response time.
Mm-hmm.
So reaction time is just when you've perceived whatever the stimulus is and you begin your action.
Right.
Then you've got to have the time to implement your action. And all of that added up together is your response time. So your response time is going to be longer than your
Mm-hmm.
reaction time. There's no way to measure the average reaction time to an unknown stimulus because we don't know when to start and stop the
Right.
measurement. But they also determined that it takes the same amount of time to stop an action that it does to start it.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're shooting faster than what the average reaction time can be, you are inside your ability you're inside your headlights. So you're outrunning your headlights, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
You've exceeded your ability to process the information and change your action.
Right.
And you get some people on the performance side or the technical side of the house that don't want to listen to that and they don't want to accept it.
Mm-hmm.
And and they want to dismiss it. And it's all right, buddy. Sorry.
It's when I started
Yeah,
looking at
yeah.
I did not I I was intrigued by the air
Yeah.
marshal qual. I've
Hmm.
always been intrigued by that.
Yeah.
I looked at that halfway through. I think probably any career, I really only have
Mhm.
the one. So that's my experience. I think about the 10-year window, people, adult professionals are probably like, man, did I make the right choice? Do I
Yeah.
really want to do this for the rest
Yeah.
of my life?
Yeah.
And I looked at some changes, and Federal Air Marshal was one of the programs that I kind of looked at. And I've always been intrigued by that. That
Hmm.
qualification has always been called the toughest law enforcement
Yeah.
qualification that ever existed. And when I really started digging into it and researching it, man, that qualification frightens people.
Hmm.
And I'm like, uh, and I have interviewed several times now the guy that created it and say, hey man, how did you come up with 165? And of course, this was in the 80s, so he's calling Gunsight, he's calling Mid South. There wasn't very many places to call.
Right.
Hey, what can your best guys on their best day? What can they do 100% of the time? And that's where those times got factored in for that qualification.
Hmm.
And I'm looking at him. I'm like, okay, cool. And then I started researching it from, the for science side of it,
Yeah.
from sports medicine side of things, and you can find an equal number of studies, maybe tilted one way or another, but audible versus visual, which one's
Hmm.
faster? They're still
Yeah.
basically a known stimulus, but on average, you're looking at a
Yeah.
0.25.
Yeah.
The To start a movement is ridiculously fast inside of things. So I looked at every measurable reaction and response like thing in sports and started doing math. And ironically enough, the times came out almost identical
Hmm.
to the air marshal times. And I was like, this is average human performance. The only thing we're adding to it now is the marksmanship side of it. If you can't make a gun run, human averages don't make any difference at all.
Right.
If you can't make it run without having to think about making it run, human
Hmm.
averages aren't going to matter.
Right.
Uh, so I've really worked at that pretty hard, looking at what those averages were and then comparing them. And like when John Holshin passed, the firearms training industry lost a
Right.
great resource, just like all these guys.
Hmm.
When John started really working on that system and looking at times, I built my own light system, just a simple turn the light on, turn the light off,
Yeah.
and was back and forth with him. And I'm like, dude, I'm not seeing the times that you're seeing. And he was surprised. He's like, man, that's crazy. That's not what. And I mean, I'm sending a video back and forth,
Right.
not like I was making stuff up, but
Hmm.
it boiled down to the I knew I knew what I was going to do. It what there was no variable. There
Right.
wasn't, even if there's only three targets and one of those three is going to get lit up,
Hmm.
that's a longer that your sub-second presentation ain't happening
Right.
like that unless you got lucky and it was the
Right.
target that you thought it
Yeah.
was going to be.
You guess which one it was going to be.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, one of the things John was finding in his data was the more time people spent on stopping shooting, the
Mm-hmm.
closer they could get to that quarter of a second reaction.
Mm-hmm.
But it was they were training to that. Well,
Right.
if we're not exposing people to that, if all we're teaching them was when to start, we're not teaching them when to stop.
Mm-hmm.
We wonder why, a cop draws and fires 8 rounds
Mm-hmm.
when he got
Or
the
more.
when he got the stimulus to go, because
Mm-hmm.
nobody ever spent time on, hey, you got to stop that,
Right.
or didn't, maybe not no time, but not as much time as the start part of it.
Mm-hmm.
The whole thing is each shot, you got to be able to justify each one of them. And that's
Right.
where Force Science started in on all their research on this was, you know, those of us with the gray like you and I got, we grew up watching westerns.
Mm-hmm.
And if you shot somebody in the back, it was automatically you're guilty of murder. Get a rope,
Right.
get a rope. Well, Well, before science got into it, we're starting to apply human performance factors and basically taking things like that we've learned from accident reconstruction and starting applying that to shooting reconstruction.
Hmm.
If the bad guy raises the gun up, the officer draws their pistol at the bad stimulus of the bad guy raising their gun up, and the bad guy turns to run away, and the officer's already started the action of firing.
Hmm.
They've got to be able to perceive that the guy turned and ran away and stop shooting.
Right.
Well, you get a shot in the side and one shot in the back as the guy's going to do. That's not necessarily indicative, however you want to say it, indicative of a bad shoot or a bad use of force. Is that the time the
Right.
decision was made to press the trigger, the
Hmm.
justification was there. Now, what we can explain is four shots in the back.
Hmm.
And I just pulled that number out of thin air.
Right.
But we
Sure.
can't explain. You start getting past two, depending on the situation, it's hard to justify that anymore.
Hmm.
You're starting to cross from reasonable to unreasonable territory. And there may be an outlier situation that justifies it. If the guy's shooting backwards as he's running away from you, you're still justified in
Yeah.
putting shots in there.
Hmm.
Um, so you may have individual outliers, but that's where all of that research came from.
Well,
And
and there's so many pieces that
mhm,
it- it's it's no one person's fault.
mhm,
It's probably all of our collective
mhm,
fault over time. But like in IDPA and USPSA, and other time sports, I'm sure
yeah,
the audible timer, the industry standard, if you will,
yeah,
beeps for 3/10 of a second. So for lots of those sporting events,
mhm,
that if you're supposed to be done in 5 seconds, you could technically be done at 5.3 and
mhm,
still be good. At 5.31, that's a late shot.
yeah,
But we don't, that late shot in a law enforcement or self-defense setting, that's
yeah,
the shot that gets somebody in trouble.
yeah,
But but because we didn't view them like that, because they weren't
mhm,
penalized like that, because that information existed and we just ignored it.
yeah,
So, a turning target. Oh, we're not going to score a shot that's elongated. Oh, good, because the stimulus had gone away. You
right,
shouldn't have been shooting. Pack your grip and go. Maybe not that extreme, but we've just never addressed it like that.
right.
So I think it comes. It, a lot of times, I think when Dunning Kruger now gets thrown around
Mhm,
like oh my God, you don't know what Dunning Kruger is? Whatever.
mhm, yeah,
But when all of a sudden we point out to somebody that's a great shooter, hey, yeah, but that's not realistic, dude.
mhm,
Ah, and we instantly have to take offense to it, and
right,
there it starts.
yeah.
But
And it's funny the things that we choose to be dividing lines and that we choose to, you know, spend the energy on. Uh, Here in Georgia, January the 1st, 2025, uh, Post changed our rules for our qualification courses.
mm,
And basically, instead of a prescribed course of fire at which they said you can shoot this course or a course that meets or exceeds these standards, they just put out a list of here are the minimum standards. Well,
mm,
if it's minimum, you can still, as an agency, say we're going to exceed
right,
that. And they said you got to have this, and a couple of things that they had to put in. Well, one of the things was, uh, you know, I started in 1999. When I came in, then there was 25-yard shots was the longest distance shot. I know in the past we had shots in, out to 50, but
mm,
at least in this century, 25 had been in there. Then all of a sudden, on January 1st, 2025, the longest required shot was now 15. And amongst all the firearms instructors across the state, it's I can't believe they're doing this, all this kind of stuff, and all those debates over we're only going to make them shoot out to the 15. I would say that's his minimum.
mm,
You can still, as an agency, require out to 25 or out to
right,
further or anything like that. You can shoot faster than the time limits or whatever. I said, but here's the thing I don't have an issue with a 15-yard qual course, provided we make it a 100% accountability course.
Mm-hmm.
Our state target, the outside of the silhouette is green. And so I'm like, you put one shot in the green, that's it. You failed the course. I'm
Mm-hmm.
okay with one that goes out, only goes out to 15, provided we adopt that standard. I'm maybe the only person in the state with that viewpoint, because the debate has continued to be ever, we got to put 25
Right.
yards back in it, but we're going to allow you to miss the target 6 times completely and still qualify.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I take issue with that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
do too.
Yeah. Especially when the A zone on the state target is an 8 by 10 scoring zone.
Mm,
And then we're giving you a wider B zone
right.
uh, than that. And we're saying you can miss that 6 times and still
How
qualify.
many rounds total they shoot in the ball?
30, 30.
Yeah, so they end up
Yeah.
so
Uh,
70% is what they
yeah.
got to end up with.
They have 80. They have 80%,
80.
240 points out of 300. The A zone is worth 10 points. The B zone is worth 8 points,
Mm,
even though the target has on it 10 and 5. We're required to
right.
score at 10 and 8. Um, yeah, and but it used to be under that old course that was the previous one from 25 was designed in 21. And you could, there was 220 points at the 3 and the 7. So you only had to get two more 10-point hits at
Right.
the 15 or 25 and eight shots, well, between those two lines combined. And the changes that went into first place on January 1st of 2025, um, you could get all your points at the 3 and the 7. You could even miss the 15-yard shots and call from what they were
Wow.
forced on the basic classes.
Right.
I'm not certain exactly. All the basic classes start up again tomorrow. I know they've said we're going to do something different for the qual course. I don't know if they're going back to the 2021 GSAC or not. I think that's probably what the plan is. But it's like we had
Mm,
this whole debate for a year over the wrong thing,
right.
over the
And
wrong thing.
that's the piece that,
Yeah.
if in Missouri, 70% is the standard.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so 30% of your shots could miss the target completely. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
For concealed carry, it's I shouldn't say it's laughable, but it's probably
Yeah.
laughable. The statute standard says that they have to hit 15 out of 20 safely.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, the other five shots can go,
Yeah.
and I could probably make an argument because that's what I could do.
Yeah.
If you miss the target, that was not safe. That
Right.
that that
Yeah.
wasn't safe. I'm sorry. Have a nice
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
And we put up a five. I don't say very much about it when I do a
Yeah.
concealed carry class. I
Yeah.
put a 5-inch circle up on the target. I shoot
Mm-hmm.
a demo real quick.
Yeah.
I shoot the 5-inch circle. I don't
Yeah.
say anything about the 5-inch circle. It's just there.
Yeah.
And that qual, they have to shoot at 21 feet.
Yeah.
Uh, then once the firing line's done, I send them forward. I'm like, hey, you got to count. I need a total count, and automatically, regardless of the student, they're counting inside out. And I say, hey, if you found 15 hits, and they're like, oh, I've only got 14 inside the circle. Oh, my
Mm-hmm.
bad. My bad.
Mm-hmm.
Anywhere on the target's fine. I just
Yeah.
put that 5-inch circle up there as a
Yeah.
frame of reference.
Yeah.
And I do 5-inch circles in the academy classes,
Mm-hmm.
and then say, hey, it's where I think it ought to be,
Yeah.
and it holds them to that tighter standard.
Mm-hmm.
If we last couple of years, there's quite a bit of conversation in law enforcement training circles,
Mm-hmm.
changing the quals. We've got to make
Yeah.
the quals tougher. We've got to do this.
Yeah.
Oh, they got red dots now. We got to
Yeah.
stop. Don't screw with the qual. Leave the qual alone. The qualification is there
Right.
for a very different reason. Let's fix the training.
Yeah.
Let's make the training legitimate to where that that
Right.
person, whoever it is, whatever setting
Right.
they're in, when they throw a shot,
Yeah.
they know why they did it, and they feel, oh my God, I can't believe I missed that.
Yeah. Right.
And it no longer boggles them that it's not the excuse I was at 25 yards. Now they're
Yeah.
like, oh, I let my grip shift, and
Yeah.
man, I just tanked that shot,
Yeah.
and they can learn from it. And
Hmm.
if we teach students, again, regardless in any setting, to hold themselves accountable,
Hmm.
and this is what accountable looks like. They
Right.
want to be
Hmm.
held to that level of accountability. They don't,
Yeah.
if to me it would frighten me some if my qualification only required me to go to 15 yards and then I'd
Yeah.
get in that fight that
Hmm.
occurs at 20. You
Yeah.
know, there's an amount of liabilities that's
Yeah.
been assumed from those people that said, I'm
Hmm.
not going to spend the time to train you
Right.
or test you
Right.
at 15 yards.
Yeah.
And that's in
Yeah.
part why we're
Yeah.
introducing the turning targets that we're doing,
Hmm. Yeah.
because the courts have said have to be exposed to
Right.
moving targets. And I think it's a misunderstanding to some degree. I think it's the decision making thing that should have been the bigger emphasis, not the moving target.
Hmm.
But if it improves training, it improves training.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And I said I'm okay with the one that only goes out to 15 yards.
mhm,
That's if you require 100% accountability.
right.
You know, I don't think adding in the, oh, we got to go to 25, but then allowing missing, I
Mhm,
don't think you've improved anything. You've just changed what you're accepting
right.
as minimum. Yeah, even if you go out to 25, I think if you're putting them in the green, it ought to be a DQ.
Right.
It ought to be a DQ. And when we take somebody and we put them, through however many hours of training that we're going to put them through, and then we give them X a number of attempts, and they limp across the finish line and get that minimum score once,
Mhm,
we'll pat them on the back. All right, you're good to go. Send them out the gate. That's not an anchored skill.
right.
That's not an on-demand skill. Is that they got lucky out there? Of course, here uh, to graduate the academies, they have to pass it twice.
Right.
But your agency
They
is
get
just
two out
one
of three
time.
attempts. Is that how they
Yeah,
do it?
they get 6 attempts, and
What?
they got to get two passing attempts out of six. Um, but for an agency, your agency sets it.
Right.
As long as you get a qualifying score at some point,
Mhm,
that could be on your 17th try if that's what your agency is going to allow.
right.
And did you really qualify? And
Yeah. I had a conversation not very long ago, and I
mhm,
think I talk about it in the Deliberate Responder book, maybe. And when I was a drill sergeant for basic combat training,
mhm,
um, there's I forget how many periods of basic rifle marksmanship, but it starts out. This is how you group with the rifle. This is how you
mhm,
zero the rifle, and builds
yeah,
up to the qualification. Um, and then they get 3 attempts at the qual. They have to pass it once.
mhm,
After the third attempt, if they haven't passed it, they're supposed to send them home. That was then.
yeah,
And I heard that by that point, the Army had spent roughly $50,000 getting them to that. And I'm like,
mhm,
why are we sending them
yeah,
home? We're not teaching them how to shoot. We're not doing the
yeah,
right pieces.
yeah,
And so I actually the first probably doctrine that I actually really wrote was a rifle marksmanship program to teach people how to teach people
yeah,
to shoot the rifle. And it shocked people that like the Army's rifle qualification, there's like 20 commander's tasks that is supposed to be evaluated from the commander's training program. Range estimation, camouflage, all only one of them's a shooting task. The
mhm,
others are, can you do your soldier job? And the only thing they cared about was the shooting side of it. And I'm like, what? Wait. And that same thing happens with concealed carry qualifications. It
mhm,
happens in law enforcement qualifications.
yep,
Like, oh, let's just get them to the finish. Let's get them to the finish line.
yeah,
No, let's teach them
yeah,
how to shoot. Let's make them accountable, teach them how to shoot, teach them how to
Right.
think about what they're supposed to be doing. If
Yeah.
your qual only goes to 15, you hold them to 100% accountability, and
Yeah.
their fight starts at 20 yards.
Yeah.
If you've taught them right, now they're like, oh, okay, I guess I need to move 5 yards to make this thing work. Okay,
Right.
cool. Or they know I've got to do something different. I can't just turn it into a blaze operation and
Right.
just do a mag dump.
Right.
But
And it doesn't matter if you have taught them the technical skill to do it.
mm-hmm,
Even if you take the qual up to 50 yards or whatever,
right.
doesn't matter if you have taught them the technical skill even at a 100% technical level, anchored on demand.
Mm-hmm, right.
If they can't apply the decision ability of appropriately using force to that technical skill, they're still not
Mm-hmm,
qualified.
right.
And that's where, when the technical and application side wants to beat heads with each other, guys, there's this whole other component
Right.
that comes into that. And I told one USPSA Grandmaster that we were kind of having this debate, and I said, if I ever start trying to tell you how to win USPSA matches, you need to shut me down hard, fast, publicly, whatever.
Right.
But until you can go into court and testify as an expert witness on the use of force, you probably need to stay out of those discussions.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, don't want to hear that, GM card,
Oh,
trumps
yeah.
trumps all. Yeah, but
Yeah, that's one of the saddest days of my life when I made GM and found out I didn't get a discount at McDonald's when I ordered a meal. I was like, what?
yeah,
What? Wait a minute.
yeah. And again, I'm not saying don't be technically good.
Right.
I watch some of these people put on demonstrations, or I watch their videos on YouTube, and I am in awe of their technical ability. But it doesn't matter if you don't have the decision making that goes along with it.
Mm-hmm.
And
And
but
it matters. It
yeah,
doesn't matter again. Well, maybe it matters less
yeah,
if you can't do it every time.
right,
Step to the
yeah,
line and do that. Yeah,
yeah,
I shot. I'm lucky. I've been a member of my local USPSA club since
mm-hmm,
1997.
yeah,
That's the range that I use for all my training. I'm out there all the time. Almost all my
yeah,
videos are shot on that range.
mm-hmm,
And I help run our state match. And I think this was our 25th year, I think maybe even more, running that match. And I've shot everything from concealment for years. I shoot my carry gun with my carry magazines, my carry
mm-hmm,
setup from concealment for everything. I
yeah,
don't deviate from it. And I showed up at the match. I shoot with the range officers for that one. And I just told myself, you know what, I'm gonna shoot all A's. That's it. I'm gonna shoot all
yeah,
A's. I don't care what it takes.
mm-hmm,
I'm gonna shoot all A's.
yeah,
And I shot slower than the guys
mm-hmm,
that won the match. But the only A's that I did not hit were on,
yeah,
there were two. That's the
right,
only two that I dropped, and they were
yeah,
on swingers.
yeah,
And I was okay with that. And I
mm-hmm,
knew when it happened.
right,
And one of the guys from one of the internet expert forums, well, the dude that won the match shot it twice as fast as you. And I said, and he hit 11 no shoots. He hit 11 no shoots. Yeah,
yeah,
but he shot it fast. And I'm like, I'm sorry. Uh, yes, he shot it fast. That wasn't
yeah,
my goal. I probably could have shot it that fast. And
yeah.
I probably could have hit more no shoots than he did. But that's not what I wanted to do inside of it. I wanted
Well,
that level of accountability.
yeah. Well,
And
let's
even
just
in
also, yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, even in like
Yeah.
I looked, having looked at both David Cagle and Darrell Bulkey
Mm-hmm.
and Eric Gelhaus's Rule 2 and Rule 4
Yeah.
concept. I looked really, really hard, spent several months kind of messing with that.
Mm-hmm.
And in IDPA, you could probably work that a little bit better because the rules are
Yeah.
set up a, a little bit
Yeah.
different. But in
Yeah.
like a USPSA event, you can't even really look at Rule
Right.
2 and Rule 4 because
Yeah.
it's not a consideration in the
Right.
setup of it.
Right. Right.
So it gets missed in training.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the guys that would argue it from And there are great grandmasters, and there are
Hmm.
grandmasters that are grounded in self-defense as
Hmm.
well.
Yeah.
But there are guys that it's not even part of their wheelhouse, and they just don't understand because they don't think. They're not
Right.
trying to think like that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I want to ask, it's like your example there. Well, this guy shot it twice as fast as you. So I wonder what his draw speed is when he's handcuffed behind his back in the backseat of a patrol car.
Right,
What's his average draw from that position?
right,
I'm going to kind of combine two bullet points into one question here. You talk in your book about understanding the why behind something can lead to the development of the how to do it, and then kind of combine that with the discussion of fastest versus most sure. There may be a faster way to do something, but can I do it with 100% of the time?
right. Yeah. It, so the one of the things, and again, I go back to my
Mhm.
roots a lot.
Yeah,
One of the things that set me apart from my other drill sergeant peers is why did not bother me.
yeah,
If I had time to answer the why,
yeah.
there there's there's a reason that we do everything. If you're
Hmm.
doing anything without a reason, you're wasting time.
Yeah,
And if you don't know what that reason is,
yeah.
then it to me it's not as repeatable, or
Mhm.
you don't approach it with the same level of motivation. There were times in my army jobs where I couldn't tell that subordinate why I needed him to do something,
Right,
but from having spent so much time with the whys when I could, we built that trust so that when I hey do this, it just got done.
right.
And I kind of took it and I showed it last year at TACON. Most people know a version of a two-handed grip,
Hmm.
and some people could actually form that grip correctly two or three times in a row,
Right,
but not all of them know how they get there. So I gave them what we call that trap, wrap, and anchor. Here is a process. I'm not saying
hmm,
it's the process, but this is how I get to the end.
hmm,
And through that level of explanation, this is why I do that. This is why I do this
yeah,
thing. It I think it helps somebody develop the unique parts that they might need
right.
for whatever reason.
Hmm.
A good friend of mine, a guy trained with me for years, was really struggling with this low left thing that, oh my gosh, that's Glocks are made to do that. Holy cow. And so I was
Have you
I was,
heard that Glock shoot left from the factory?
oh my goodness, yeah.
Yeah,
And there is a small percentage of the population that they automatically shoot to the right.
yeah.
It's just like, I don't know, they came out of the factory
Hmm.
backwards or something.
Yeah.
But I was watching. I saw a video with. I was trying to figure out how to help Tony out, and was watching a video or something. Lena Mitchell, and I thought, I said, oh my God, she's got her finger wrapped around the front of the trigger guard. I stopped it, backed it up, and I'm like, oh, she's got two fingers wrapped around. What in the world? So I was looking and I was like, let me play a little bit. And of course, there were those were gunsmith modifications in the 70s and 80s, making
Yeah.
square trigger guards
Hmm.
and wrapping the
Yeah.
finger around the front. And when Tony wrapped the finger around the front of the trigger guard, and I wasn't going to suggest anything that I wasn't doing myself. I wanted to
Right.
experience the same things he was experiencing, and it started straightening him out. That's not the piece that was the magical fix. He
Right.
quit doing the grip changes because of doing that with his finger. And I went to can't remember who's yeah, I do remember who. I went to a class, great instructor, performance based, super fast class. Um, and their standards are very fast paced. I'm meeting their standard, and one of the AIs comes by. He's like, dude, you're wrapping your finger around the front of the trigger guard. Ah, there's a reason. Oh, that's way worse. But, but dude, I'm meeting your standards.
Yeah.
I, I, I probably can't really go any faster than this standard. A faster standard probably doesn't exist.
Yeah.
But me wrapping my finger isn't keeping me from doing that. Why would you want me to take? Oh, you, that's it just doesn't work as well.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So for the rest of the class, I didn't wrap my finger around it. I figure you don't need to spend time talking to me. I got this. Okay,
Mhm.
cool. It's you give up a percentage of your grip strength. Tom and I have talked about it, and I don't wrap my finger around the front of the trigger guard. You give up roughly 25% of that because it's one of your fingers. But if the why puts my finger there that
Mhm.
and makes me a better shooter, in Lena's example, she has super, super tiny hands. So to not do that ends up with her wrist in a really oddball position that doesn't help her mitigate recoil. Well, well, there's the why, and then we can start to get the if they understand the why something needs to happen, it's much easier, I think, for them to buy into it, to take ownership of that thing if they're looking to improve.
Yeah.
Um, and then the what was the second part of that one? The
Um, let me scroll back up here. Fastest versus most sure. Yeah, there may
so
be a faster way to do something, but I know I can do this other way on demand, anchored 100% of the time, but it's not as fast.
Yep, and I can use a couple examples from that.
Mhm.
So like
Yeah.
if somebody watches in the videos that I put up, I'm not I'm trying to encourage people to get to the range. And if they watch me shoot a playing card in 4 seconds and they're like, man, I could beat him, and they go to the range and do it, I'm excited
Yeah.
from
Mhm.
that. And I get comments when I carry appendix outside the waistband, usually with a pulling garment. I pull my garment all the way to my shoulder. Doesn't matter what shirt I'm wearing, I pull it all the way to my shoulder. I
Mhm.
can guarantee that I clear it. It would be faster to barely clear that gun, to just barely clear the gun. Oh
Mhm.
boy, that was fast.
Yeah.
Woo! But every now and again, I don't clear the gun and I get a handful of shirt, and then that draw's flubbed.
Yeah.
And to me, okay, I'll risk this. People, I get quite a few comments. Oh my God, are you carrying appendix outside the waistband? Yes. I'm not carrying center line
Right.
like
Yeah.
now gets called appendix, but this is why I carry there. Oh
Mhm.
my God, there's too much cant on your holster. Yeah, there's a reason, because it hides like that. And I stand in front of people wearing t-shirts that they're not, there's t-shirts.
Yeah.
They're like, but dude, you're not even carrying a gun. Of course I am. And I'm carrying it outside the waistband,
Yeah.
but in part because I put that cant in there the way I do it for me, unique to me, but it slows that presentation some. So
Yeah.
the more positive side of that versus the little bit faster side of that, those come from the whys,
Yeah.
and really digging deep into those. And my version of the five whys it's a business model. Why
Yeah.
doesn't this work? And doing that for everything that somebody does from a defensive training with firearms standpoint. Man, why are you doing that? That this weekend, I don't know why. It's not like we magically saw people putting their magazines in pouches, what I would consider backwards, but that's normal. There's there's only you either put the bullets facing forward or you put the bullets facing back. To me, bullets facing back is weird and it's slower. Hey, you got your bullets facing backwards, but is not how I ever address it. I'm like, hey, how
Right.
come why
Yeah.
you put your bullets facing that way? Oh, it's this motion for me. Yeah, but dude, you got to turn your wrist all the way around to get there, and then you got to turn it back around when you get up here. Man, I never thought of that. They never asked themselves
Yeah.
the why. But if um, to me, if the why they do that makes it better,
Yeah.
even if it made it slower,
Mhm.
it might be okay.
Yeah.
But it has to be validated. That's why I use standards for things.
Yeah.
I don't care how you get the gun out of the holster.
Yeah.
I'd like for you to get it out in 1.65 seconds and show me that you can hit a 5 inch circle at 7 yards.
Yeah.
If you can show me that, I don't care if you spin it coming out of, except for you're breaking the 180, and that's probably
Right.
not good. But
Right. Right. Yeah. And Lord, I can just hear the internet breaking right now over a 1.65 second draw. That's a 1.65 second draw with a hit to a 5 inch circle,
mm,
not an 8 inch circle, not a 6x9 or 6x11, whatever the A zone is on a USPSA. It's to a 5 inch circle, and that's different.
it it screws with people when I
Hmm.
talk about, and it, I don't think it should ever be go, oh well, I can do that, but you can't do that.
Right.
It shouldn't be a competition. It shouldn't be an ego piece. When I really don't care what size target it is, and I
Right.
really don't care what distance it
Hmm.
is. If I can't, I'm currently, man, I don't want to tip my TACON presentation hat too hard. I'm currently working on the presentation from concealment on an 8 inch plate at 40 yards in 1.65 seconds because I don't understand why there would be a difference because we got farther away.
Right.
I'm still pointing the gun at the specific spot that I want the bullet to go to.
Hmm.
So that specific spot didn't change. My
Yeah.
perception of that
Yeah.
specific spot may have changed some. So it was when the first year of the 52-week challenge,
Yeah.
all of my friends thought the greatest thing in the world was to find a next size smaller deck of cards. Oh, here you go. I'm like,
Yeah.
geez, guys, come on, holy cow. But
Yeah.
if that should be, and if somebody's is in 1 second, that's awesome.
Mhm.
0.08, that's even better.
Yeah.
As long as it's 100% of the time. As
Yeah.
long as you can do that on demand,
Hmm.
which I do also think we talked on demand way earlier. I do also think that if that surplus of skill, that ability to do, let's just say sub 1 second on demand, when you call them out and they step to the line, it's not like they don't know what's going to happen. At
Right.
that point, you're like, oh shit, is that thing going to beep? I mean, we all know. So that is still not the same thing as the
Yeah.
holy smoke, is this
Yeah.
really happening to me?
Yeah. Yeah. I just recently bought a new duty holster that is different. The retention's different than any other duty holster I've ever used. Excuse me for a second. The reason I got this is I'm trying to collect one of each type of holster I have coming through my class
Mm-hmm.
base because I want to be able to demonstrate, you know, based on what the students are using. So I had never carried in this type of holster, this manufacturer. So I've got a couple of them for different guns I've got. And excuse me for a second. Excuse me, all of a sudden got something in my throat. And standing there with my hands in my chosen start position, having no problem getting the gun out in my desired amount of time. But when I start varying my hand start positions, sometimes I'm hanging up.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have that skill anchored from that holster. I
Right.
can't tell you that, all right, from my other holster that I've always carried, that if I'm going to go grab my holster, I can tell you that I can 100% of the time from that holster give you an A zone hit in 1.5 seconds or less.
Mm-hmm.
Probably going to be around 1.3. I can tell you 1.5 or less. I can't tell you that from this new holster that I'm playing with
Right.
because I'm not 100% sure on the retention devices.
Mm-hmm.
And it's making a difference. So now I'm
Okay.
having to spend time to anchor the skill with that holster, starting with hands in all kind of different positions,
And
trying to
if
master it.
you and you're doing it, I know you are. It, you're having to ask the why.
Yeah,
Why isn't this okay?
right,
This movement is
right,
not working the same. Why?
right, right,
And it's only through the
right.
understanding of those whys do you get it fixed.
Yeah.
You you will eventually get it fixed,
Oh yeah.
but
Yeah.
if you're not looking at it from the why perspective, then as you
Right.
switch back and forth,
Right.
and somebody asked me the other day, what gun do you normally carry? And I'm like, oh, it depends on the day. They're
Yeah.
like, oh yeah. I'm like, yeah, like a Monday, that's a Glock 19.
Yeah.
Oh, and a Tuesday, that's a Glock 19. Wednesday, that's a Glock 19. And
Yeah.
I carry it in the same place with the same thing, with the same type of, but I
Yeah.
make note, if
Right.
I don't want to, I don't want to pull my shirt up with the camera in front of me on video,
Right.
and then be looking at naked skin. I'm old
Yeah.
enough now. I'm like, oh, dude, it's a big deal. So I usually have a tank top on or an undershirt,
Yeah.
and I know, oh, these shirts pull a little bit slower,
Right.
and it, to me, I think the deliberate responder side of it ties it back to, your that holster, let's just say it's a 2 second holster for you right now.
Yeah.
That the fact that it's 2 seconds to me, that's 28 feet, that's 30 feet.
Yeah.
That's this much more space that I need to be accountable for. So if somebody has a 1.5 second presentation, it should be 7 yards.
Yeah.
And that's why it's 7 yards. If you have a 2 second presentation, well, it should be 28 feet. But that's the distance that you're responsible for inside of that. And yeah, I think those are the metrics that we don't look at as much as we could.
Yeah. And I could take the path of, well, I've done it in this other holster. I've got this draw, so that's my on-demand draw. You know,
Right.
but I've got to be intellectually honest with myself to say, right now using this holster, I don't have it.
Mm-hmm.
And on the sure versus fast, if I'm carrying close front concealment, I know that I can technically draw faster with coming over with the sport hand close to the gun, ripping up with the shirt, and then with the strong hand grabbing the pistol.
Mm-hmm.
I flub that draw from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
So I grab both hands down near the gun
Right.
and rip up and then trap with, um, the sport hand and let the strong hand go to the gun. Is it slower? Yes,
Mm-hmm.
but it is more sure. The magnificent Steve Havey,
Mm-hmm.
whether he is carrying open front or closed front, reaches down and grabs with both hands and rips up with the shirt and then grabs the gun with a strong hand, because it's the same technique no matter what he's carrying.
Right.
Is he giving up a little speed when he could just sweep the garment out of the way if it was open front? Yeah,
Yep.
but he's not flubbing a draw.
And that to me, and those come from the whys.
Mm-hmm.
Why am I doing this? Why am I, you can ask it in class. Ooh, hey, did you know? Why did you do that?
Yeah,
Oh man, I didn't even know I was doing that. Oh yeah,
yeah,
you're doing that. And
yeah,
I'll pull my phone out all the time,
yeah,
even if I'm AI in an arrange master class. I'll
yeah,
pull my phone out. I'll take a quick video. I'm like, hey,
yeah,
why do you do that? And I didn't realize. Yeah, look at that.
yeah,
Man, I didn't know I was doing that. And
yeah.
I think Steve is a thinker and
Mm-hmm.
and has just figured out, and I will give up
Yeah,
X amount.
right.
I, a government agency asked me about a type of holster. Uh, there we're there was nobody making a Kydex cross draw like holster. Kydex or cross draw kind of gone the way of the dodo. Everybody's like, oh my God, that's so slow. And I'm like, yeah, if you look at in the 1980s, mid and late 80s, at the fastest shooting events in the world, there were
Mm-hmm.
still people shooting cross draw.
Yeah,
Getting the gun out of the holster is just how we get started.
yeah,
Uh, but because of their drivers, because of the close protection work that they're doing, guys were interested in
Yeah.
a Kydex cross draw. So I
Yeah.
built one. I looked at what it needed to be. I asked all those questions. I built one, and I go to the range for starting the test out, and I've got both a kite cross draw and my normal appendix carry rig on, and notebook all lined out, target set up, however far I was working, and I
Yeah.
draw from my normal, put it away in the cross draw, record the time. Draw it from the
Yeah.
cross draw, put it away. In the other one, it's back and forth, back and forth. And
Mhm.
guys are like, "Oh my gosh, that's so much slower." And I'm like, "Oh, here's the math. Here's what I did." And
Yeah.
this is over like 1,000 presentations, 500 from each, and here's the
Yeah.
average.
Yeah.
What? Because if we're not digging for the whys, we can't. You could talk about it, but you're not talking about it from an educated perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can sit there and say, well, this is slower until you've tested it. Do you really know that it's slower?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because there's been, I'm struggling to think of an example right now, but times where I thought one technique was better. And then I went and actually put them on timers and checked them and then everything. Actually, this other one is actually a little faster. And
Mm-hmm.
if that's a situation where faster is better, then maybe adopt that one. But is
Mm-hmm.
it more sure? One of the more sure, one more example of that, Tom Givens is an advocate of the overhand rack of the slide,
Right.
on the reload. And he talks about the mechanical advantage of that. And it works all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it does. It's slower. He knows that he's giving up some time on a drill reloading that way, but he also knows that it works.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I typically default to strong hand thumb hitting the slide stop on a Glock pistol.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because it's playing gun games, it's faster, and I practice that. I don't know how many emergency slide lock, whatever term you want to do, reloads I've done, but 4 times I've sent the slide home before the magazine was seated.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that I can tell you the number tells me that each of those incidents stands out to me.
Oh.
So was that faster better than the more sure?
Mm-hmm. Ed Ed Monk has a, and I hope he listens. He has a casino drill coin
Yeah,
from a class
yeah,
that would have been mine except for my strong thumb. Uh, Roger Moore. Have you been in a class with
yeah. I know. Yeah,
Roger's on my right, Ed Monk's on my left? I think Roger's getting ready to be the last guy to shoot the
yeah,
casino drill. And he asked me, he said,
yeah.
how are you gonna how fast are you gonna shoot this? And I said, I'm
Mhm.
not sure yet. I, I don't know yet. And I said, I'll control what it needs to be.
Right.
And I teach
Yeah,
when I teach getting the slide forward, the most
yeah,
positive is racking the slide. The
yeah.
fastest is my strong thumb. The most sure for me is my support thumb.
Hmm.
And I can control it
Right.
in between that. Ed ran a 1452
Yeah,
casino drill right beside me. I looked at Roger and I said, I'll be using my strong thumb. So
yeah,
when I finished that last load, I felt the slide go forward on an empty chamber. I knew it, but I had to take that chance.
yeah,
Click, tap, rack, boom, 1454. I was like, oh, I could have racked the slide off
yeah,
my belt
yeah,
and finished it. But the fact that I had to do immediate action
yeah,
inside of that,
yeah,
guys would talk about Hick's law. If you've got more
yeah,
choices and this, that, and that. No, you have
yeah,
to understand why you're doing that thing you're doing. And I
yeah,
teach it to the academy students that way.
yeah.
This is the most positive,
Hmm.
but I
Yeah,
talk about it
right.
different. I don't,
Yeah,
this, I'm explaining the why.
right.
So to me, that just
Yeah,
makes it better.
yeah. When I teach reloads, say one way of doing it is putting the magazine in and using your strong hand thumb to hit the slide stop and send it forward. The more sure way is overhand or inboard rack, whichever way you want to go with that. Um,
Mm,
yeah, I think inboard is actually a little faster and more sure than the overhand. Or you can come up with the support hand thumb and hit it.
Hmm.
Now, back when I shot Smith 4006s, because the government made me do that, I used support
Right.
hand thumb because it was so far forward I couldn't reach it with my strong side. And when you can't
Right.
hit the magazine in, you came up. Well, your support hand thumb was on top of the side stop.
Hmm.
It's like the same place as a 1911, basically.
Right.
I said, now in the modern world, all you guys shooting Glocks, you're also probably shooting AR-15s or AR pattern rifles, and you put that magazine and you come up. Where is your support hand thumb? It's right
Hmm.
on the bolt release. So there is an argument to be made for using the support hand thumb to send the slide forward home and send the bolt release home because you're using
Hmm.
the same task to do or the same technique to do both tasks.
Yep.
I suggest you use one. Now go
Hmm.
pick it and make a decision, pick it, test it,
Yep.
do whatever.
And understand why you made that decision.
Right.
And if you get, once they take ownership of it, that's where the
Yeah.
whys come from.
Yeah.
Once you take ownership of that,
Yeah.
then,
There you go. We got two more questions from the show group that I'd like to get to.
mhm,
One is, what do you think the key points of great drills are?
I think they have to be based in a, I actually, I saw these before and we talked from before.
Yeah.
Um, they have to be grounded in reality.
Mhm.
If they're not grounded in some form of reality for a reason, um, then I shy away from them. I think
Mhm.
great drills are fairly isolated, but not always one specific task. Um, I think when a drill combines too many things inside of that, it gets you can no longer track where the mistakes were, and there's not much value. And maybe it shifts from a drill to a test at some
Yeah.
point. But and we know we don't multitask
Mhm.
very well.
Right.
So I think drills that are more stacked tasks are better kinds of exercises. One of my favorite is dot torture, the original 50 round dot torture piece, because even though it's 50 rounds, which I still think is a low round count
Mhm.
exercise, that what 10 different strings technically, or eight, however many it is. It's pretty isolated.
I will confess, and I may break the internet here again. I have never shot dot torture.
Oh, okay. That was the
I'm
last
familiar with
question,
it. I'm familiar with it. I've just never shot it.
right? I mean, it's, it forces people. I think a good drill forces people to do things that they might not normally do. Maybe especially in more now, so um, like support hand only stuff. That frightens people. I can't wait to see Eric's class. This is not your dumb hand, because I don't go to the range without shooting
Right.
support hand. Period.
Yeah.
That's not everybody, and you know a good drill would force us to do the things that we might not normally do. But I suppose that's even looking at it from a jilted trainer perspective. For somebody that's addicted to training, maybe.
Yeah. All right. And we had someone that wanted to get your thoughts on creating lesson plans.
I saw that one too. Um, I think that's a tough one, and I think that finding places uh, to actually learn how to develop a lesson plan, that's tough. I don't even know where that exists. It gets addressed a little bit in some classes, but actually technically writing doctrine
Mhm.
um, is probably the easiest way for me to kind of like look at that and think what's critical inside of it is you absolutely have to understand the process. And writing a lesson plan is putting the process to writing as much or more than anything else. If a process to get something done skips around, it's not efficient. If the reason some classes don't go like like they could go if that instructor is not using a lesson plan. And I don't know that they might be so well versed that they don't need to have it right there on the firing line with them. But I'm not there yet. I need that to where I can get to it at
Hmm.
least on every break
Yeah.
because that's the process. It's a roadmap. Um, if someone uh, wanted to sit down and write a class, just said that's it, I'm going to write a class. If they could just look at the logical process to get to the end where they want to be, I think
Right.
they could do it. There's conversation right now. I've not looked at it from a build a lesson plan perspective, but there's conversations right now with AI. Um, if, if people, a couple guys are writing, and they're putting out some really thought provoking articles, sharing them online for nothing. In part, they're doing it to elicit some rage, if you will, to get some fussing going back and forth.
Yeah.
Um, but AI is a pretty awesome tool for a lot of things. I didn't know that there were AI tools now in police reporting. I didn't know that that was a thing. I was like, whoa, well, that makes sense. And if AI can help make something better, so I'm positive that AI could help develop a lesson plan, but the piece that's very likely missing is understanding the desired outcome.
Yeah.
If the AI information, all of it was generated at some point from a human, but if the human that generated that information didn't understand the outcome, then it's not there. And I think I laughed and told Tiffany the other day, I never thought I was going to be the guy that they're like, oh, that's Mr. Process right there. Holy cow, he's the process guy.
Yeah.
And but once I got that label from a few people,
Mhm.
it's like, oh, you know what? I'm going to wear that with pride. I mean, that's like the scarlet letter P. I'm like, I'm gonna because the process is absolutely how we do things better and more efficiently to get to the desired outcome. Eh, But there are people that forget about the outcome. They don't understand that
Right.
in order to have the right process, you
Hmm.
have to know what the desired outcome
Yeah.
is that you're working towards.
Yeah. I think at a bare minimum, you have to establish what is your need.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What do I need to accomplish? And then
Right.
what are the steps that need to be taken to accomplish that need? And then how
Mm-hmm.
am I going to evaluate whether or
Right.
not that need has been met? And there's all kind of different languages and terminologies because everybody wants to come up with their own method and label it, name it, and sell it in a book and everything else on how to do it. But
Mm-hmm.
it's really that simple. Uh, you know,
And I
it was task standard and accountability or whatever it was, back in the day, and then that's
right
changed and everything else is there's
the
task standard
action
condition. I'm sorry.
the action condition and standard is how
Yeah,
they would refer to it, at least how they
yeah,
would refer
yeah,
to it when I retired.
yeah,
Uh, and action just took the place of task.
yeah.
And like I didn't understand it as a young soldier, but part of the standards that you would always read about, like um, you had like there's an infantry task to set the headspace and timing on a 50 caliber machine gun and then check it. Part of the standard is without causing injury or damage to the equipment. And I'm like, duh, duh. Well, now the 59-year-old Jim totally understands. If I damage that equipment, it ain't available to me
Right.
anymore. If I put my thumb in the wrong place and rip my thumb off,
Hmm.
it's not growing back. It's not coming
Right.
back today.
Yeah.
Here's the desired outcome process is even the same way. Developing um, a lesson plan is not much more than developing a good drill. A drill is just a smaller version, the action, condition, and standard, and then taking those and turning those into the Army calls them terminal learning objectives or kind of
Hmm.
the outcome.
Yeah.
And then the enabling learning objectives are the things that are required for me to
Yeah.
get to that outcome that I want. What do you have to know? What do I have to show you
Hmm.
in order to for you to understand what I wanted you to teach? And then the test I started into that before, and the test, in my opinion, is not just a test of wherever it is of that student's ability. It's a test of did you do, of your information, and did you deliver the
Hmm.
information in
Yeah.
a way that they could understand it? Um, and it, so yeah, the training development side of it is the side where I think those people that really, really want to teach, that's where they could spend, to the benefit of the students, they should spend some time is learning how to really develop that training.
Mhm. Is there anything that I didn't ask you about tonight that you would like to talk about?
So there's that it, my books did not start uh,
Yeah.
like they are going now.
Okay.
I think most people that have seen my books, that one of 100, a deliberate responder, that
Hmm.
ended up sort of like being an autobiography, maybe a shortened version,
Hmm.
uh, because I had started it on the quantified skills book like 3 years ago, and
Hmm.
it just kept going. It just kept getting bigger. And in the quantified skills one that you finished, I talk about touch on Whitlock's class
Hmm.
and what I've turned into my decision engine. Those four questions have it's turning into a series. The one I'm working on now, having pulled from chapters that I wrote 2.5 years ago,
Hmm.
but they really didn't have a place. They're all assigning the decision engine questions in the situational awareness. Have you looked at my adaptive movement book yet?
No, I've read the two deliberate. I read those both the last couple of days. Two deliberate
the
responders.
the adaptive movement is the last one that's kind of written like a novel,
Hmm.
where it's introducing
Yeah.
that decision engine into something else, and then the next ones in this series are going to be written a little bit more like doctrine.
Okay.
Here's what, here's why, here's the outline, because hopefully people are looking at them now as a series, so I don't need some of the filler words and some of the
Right.
background inside of some of it
Yeah.
from there. So
I
always
don't.
available on Amazon.
There you go. I'll post links and stuff in the show descriptions and everything. I don't get a lot of time to read, just for my own. I want to sit down and read something.
Right.
It caught at just the exact time this year, over like the few days around Christmas, between Christmas and New Year's. I teach college classes and I have my full time job with the state, and had a few days off from the full time job. Don't have a college class going right now. Um, and I think it was Justin Coleman posted on Facebook. He liked the link to one of the books. And it's,
Mm,
hey, I just finished this book. It's great. And I clicked on the link and looks like Kindle. That's not much money.
right.
I'm not doing anything today. Download. And I read the first one. And like, I think I got through the first chapter. And I sent you the message. Hey, would you like to come on this weekend and talk about your book? And I finished
Yes,
that
I
one.
would.
And I finished that book. And I'm like, you know what? I've got until Monday before I go back into the real world. And so Friday night, I bought the other book and read it Friday night and Saturday. Now, real world starts back again tomorrow. So everybody else out there that's written a book, please don't get upset if I don't sit down and read it, read it right now.
It's tough sometimes.
Yeah. And your business is Advanced Performance Shooting.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And people can go there and find out how to contact you and get to your classes, get to all that kind of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
right? All right.
Facebook's Jim Shanahan.
All right.
Normal face on there. I don't try to hide too many things. And it's really not most things. I don't post political stuff hardly
Right.
ever.
Yeah.
My I eat, sleep, and drink training.
Yeah.
Uh, there's videos that go up 2 or 3 times a week.
Hmm.
Most of those videos are shot at demo
Yeah.
speed just because I want people to see that stuff. And I'm trying
Right.
to show them how to use
Right.
that as a training tool as well.
Yeah. I did
So,
get on your YouTube channel yesterday, and I was watching some of the stuff because you referred to it in the book, like you modified the air marshal qual,
mhm.
and there was something that you did in your version of that that I had been trying to finalize a shooting test that I was coming up with. I'm like, I have inspiration. That right
There you
there
go.
just solved my puzzle for me right there. So you'll get a excuse me, a footnote in the in that
There you
course of
go.
fire. Yeah, I stole this from Jim. It's not exactly what he does, but he's the one that inspired it.
Well, and I laughed. I told you
Yeah,
when I was interviewing the guy that Tom Bullins that wrote that original program and did that training.
yeah,
In the original Air Marshal Qual,
yeah,
there's a slide lock reload, and they have to take a knee when they do
mhm,
that. So I'm thinking through, and I'm trying to ask myself the why, and I'm
yeah,
like, why? Oh, maybe it's avionics, maybe
yeah,
it's this, maybe they're trying to do. And I'm like, hey, dude, hey, how come you take a knee? Oh, that was the flavor of the day.
yeah,
Tactical teams did that back in the day, and they had to communicate a status before they got back up. And I was kicking doors before I was teaching
yeah,
that stuff. And then part of what I taught afterwards was military hostage rescue teams for
mhm,
10 years. And I remember building clearing stuff where if you had to reload, you took a knee, you
yeah,
announced it sometimes with a color, sometimes with a
yeah,
word, and somebody covered. That's why they did that in the air marshal qual. I
yeah,
said, I'm not going to take a knee for the sake of taking a knee for
right,
this. If
yeah,
there's cover available and somebody wants to take a knee behind cover, I got it.
mhm,
When we do the FBI qual, I don't. When if I'm doing it because it's the FBI qual,
yeah,
here's the requirement.
yeah,
But I tell people I'm not going to take a knee for the sake of taking a knee. So I put a barrel
yeah,
out there. I'm not grading you on your use of that. I'm
yeah.
putting that out there so you understand the why inside of it.
Sometimes just to have fun with students in a class, if we're shooting a specified mandated course of fire. Hey, does anybody know why we do this at the whatever yard line? And they always try to come up with some actual reason for why we do it. And I
Right.
said, we're doing it because it says right here on the piece of paper that this is what we do at the yard line.
Right.
There may not be any reason or a rhyme
Right.
to it. Um, my understanding is that the 7 yard line became standard is because that was they went around and measured a bunch of bedrooms and
Hmm.
like the FBI did back in the day. It's,
Right.
oh well, the average length of across of a bedroom is 7 yards, and
Right.
from the door of the bedroom across it. Okay, we need to have that in. And
And
I
if
can't.
you ask some of them now, they'll be like,
Yeah,
"Oh, it's because of the 21-foot rule."
yeah,
Oh, that's the rule. Oh,
yeah. Now I can't give you an academic footnote to that, but that's my understanding. But
hmm.
all right, well, Jim, I very much appreciate you coming on tonight and spending your
Appreciate
time. I
you.
have enjoyed the conversation. To the audience, we know that your most important asset is your time. Thank you for choosing to spend it with us.